So, the Karen retrial. So, when I found out about it and I started watching what was going on, it was already in the middle of the trial. Now, I learned about John O'Keefe that he was a single man taking care of his niece and nephew, basically adopting them. I felt such a camaraderie with him because I too I'm an adoptive mother. I adopted my 2 kids, my niece and my nephew, and just based on that alone, plus he was a police officer. I come from a family who were in law enforcement. I really wanted to hate Karen Reed. I wanted her to be guilty. I really did. I had this bias just built in because I identified with John O'Keefe so much. And I just wanted her to be guilty. And, and there she was pretty and thin, and she had nice clothes. And, these cops were saying that she did these things. And I wanted to hate her. I wanted to hate her. I wanted her to be guilty. And I wanted justice for this man who I identified with so closely. In fact, like I identified with him more than Karen, right? And he was a single dad by choice. He took a responsibility he didn't need to. I felt for him, and I still do, more so than I did for another woman, right? Until the trial started, until like I actually started seeing all of the evidence that was coming in from the trial. And oh my God, there's, I believe from me, right, who wanted her to be guilty so badly, and I wanted to hate her. And after looking at all of the evidence, I am totally on the other side now. Totally in the free Karen Reed. Um, I do believe she's being set up. And I think this is a trial that we all need to look at. Now, very recently, this independent audit came out for the investigation or how this situation was handled with John O'Keefe, and it looked at the police department and the investigation. So here's the thing with the first responders to John O'Keefe's like 911 call, right? When he was found in the snow, those first responders, I don't think did anything wrong. They were just they weren't competent enough to handle that scene. It was negligence based on incompetence. They didn't have what they needed, they didn't have the skills, they didn't have the training. They made a lot of wrong decisions. So, in terms of the corruption itself, those first responders at that point aren't guilty of anything other than a lack of training and incompetence, in my opinion. I think those guys, the first responders, did the best that they could. Where this trial is interesting because it goes from this incompetence and lack of training with the first responders from the Canton Police Department into, once Proctor and the Massachusetts State Police came into it, it goes into then corruption. It goes into evidence tampering, uh, evidence planting. It goes into framing. They had a suspect, Karen, and then they created the story around her. The part of there were certain people in the Canton Police Department who I do think should be looked at a lot more heavily than they are, and a lot more closely, and be held accountable for potential corruption and framing. And this would be the people who participated in tampering of the evidence, inverting the video, hiding the video in the iCloud, or wherever it is that they hid the videos that are the defense just got, and they still didn't even get everything yet. That 45 minutes of Sallyport video that was cut out, um, the people who should have said something, um, when there wasn't a chain of custody, log being done for all of the evidence, the people who saw John's clothes sitting in the Canton Police Department for however many weeks before it was actually sent to the lab or wherever it needed to go. Um, these people, those people are, I believe, they should be investigated a lot more closely for what they've done. Um, Obviously, Proctor and his uh, supervisors or counterparts, clearly they need to be held accountable. And honestly, I think that the federal investigation is ongoing. If we think about like what happened here with the federal investigation, at the end of January, I believe it was like the 28th or something of this year, um, the federal agents or what have you sent out from the DOJ, they sent out a letter stating that the investigation was still active, it was ongoing, so on and so forth. 2.5, 3 weeks later, Hank Brennan says he gets a phone call from the feds stating that the investigation has been closed out. So right there, you have one, something in writing, and then immediately, like a couple weeks later, someone's calling on the phone and giving information about the closed investigation. I don't believe it for anything. Now, I'm not saying that Hank is lying. Hank Brennan, the prosecutor, special prosecutor brought on by the Commonwealth, Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. I do not believe that he is making this up. I do think that somebody did call him and advised him that the investigation was closed. But I also think that, and I know that law enforcement lies to the people that they're investigating. And I think that this was strategic on the part of the feds because they sent out something in writing stating that the investigation was ongoing. And then you want to quell fears in the people who you are investigating, especially since they are law enforcement and you want them to keep doing what they're doing, right? You want to see how they act, right? Once when you state that the investigation is ongoing and then you tell them you're not doing anything anymore, what is the change in behavior? What do they do? And I think that was strategic. I think it was on purpose. I think this federal investigation is still ongoing. I don't think that they brought charges upon anybody who they will. Now, if Michael Proctor was, found to be so flagrantly like biased and breaking all of these rules and policies and doing illegal things really as an investigator in the Massachusetts State Police, so much so that he was dishonorably discharged, why wouldn't the feds be charging him with something? It just doesn't make sense to me. And I think it's because it's strategic. The feds don't indict someone until they have everything that they want. And they will wait, you know, they'll wait. The feds will wait until they have everything that they need. This all started really with the Cassandra Birchmore case. And then her name is Penelope McGee. Her case was insane too. It's the same a couple of the same troopers with the medical examiners, and they got her to change the cause of death to like heart attack by argument or something crazy, like homicide by heart attack or cardiac arrest or something crazy. And this poor woman was on trial for murder because she got into a fight with her ex-husband who she was living with. And it, and the medical examiner was up on that stand, and if you guys want to watch it together, I think I'll do it. But medical examiner was up there on that stand, and she had no evidence that this woman like actually participated in killing this guy. And she it's a crazy trial. But there is a pattern here, right? And I just don't see how the federal investigation could be closed at all. I really don't think it is, especially since they sent a letter and then 2.5 weeks later they said that they told Hank Brennan on the phone that the investigation was closed. It just I I don't know. You just that's not it doesn't work like that, you know? If you put something in writing, it's for a reason, and then if you don't put something in writing, that's for a reason too, you know? So much of this brought me back to working for the Catholic Church, and it's like, what do you put in writing? You know, what you want people to see. Um, things that you want things that are true, things that can be proven, right? The other part of, what I thought was interesting about the federal investigation and Hank's announcement is that Hank said the investigation into the circumstances surrounding John O'Keefe's death were closed, not the investigation. That was added on later, right? Now, this is, of course, Hank Brennan, who's been making stuff up in hearings like the entire time, right? So, who are we to trust anything he said? But I do honestly believe that he got this phone call, but I don't think they were telling him the truth at all. Because also, he's a hired gun. Like he's the fall guy, right? He's the sacrificial lamb. He's the sacrifice in this case. Um, just doesn't know it yet, you know? They can let him die on the sword because he's not one of them, right? I don't know. But I've started this because I just wanted to, like, put something out here. I wanted to play with StreamYard and see how this felt, and how it looks. And, yeah, maybe I'll use this, maybe I won't. God bless.